Mr. Brown, welcome, and the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good to be on the show. So yeah, let me give you a little bit of context. Firstly, I am an investor. Our company are investors. We've invested in over 200 companies in the last 3.5 years. We're probably one of the largest investors in the United States by deal numbers. And that's only going to increase over the next couple of years. So I'm going to give you a little perspective over the next 15 minutes or so about accelerators and why accelerators are just a good use of entrepreneurs' time. Some entrepreneurs, maybe for others not, but it lets you into the world of accelerators. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the environment and the economy and what's happening today, which will add a little bit of context as well. And really all of this is going to be under the umbrella of you are either one of two types of startups. You're either a startup who wants to have a nice family business and you want to grow it and it wants to do fine, in which case it's got nothing to do with venture capital. And God bless you, you build a great company. Everything's going to be about the amount of revenue you drive, which will drive the profitability, which will give you cash flow, which will mean that you can grow a great business. Or you are the second type of entrepreneur. And that entrepreneur is an entrepreneur who is a purely venture backable business. And that means that it's not so much about the profits that you make or the margins that you make on those profits. It's about the growth that you can drive in your business. And if you even go deeper than that, that growth that you drive will be there to drive value. And then that value that you then drive will be there to drive additional investment that you can get into your companies. Now, I live in the world of that place, which is the second type, the venture scalable startup companies. Now, why do I live there? Because if we back the right company and we work with those companies have the ability to build multi-billion-dollar companies. And we've seen them all over the world. Facebook was one of them. One day they were a billion-dollar unicorn. Snapchat were, Instagram were, WhatsApp were, Uber were, all of the companies that are out there. So anybody who is really coming into the startup space, especially from a technology perspective, is looking to go into that vehicle. Now, the good news is that there used to be 13, 14 unicorns in the world if we go back 20 years. If we look at it today, there's over 1,400 unicorns in the world. So the amount of unicorns has grown exponentially, which means the opportunity for early stage startups to be able to actually break it all the way through to become a unicorn actually has grown exponentially as well. Here's the bad news. It's not about raising a pre-seed round or a seed round anymore. Most people are able to do that. It's about getting through a Series A round, and that is incredibly difficult. And if anything, if we go back to that same 15 or 20 year time span, you could get a Series A in many cases with no revenue. Today, you have to have a tremendous amount of revenue, somewhere between $100,000 and $500,000 a month for any investor to even look at you for a Series A. So what's the game? The game is about growth. And the game is about being able to break through and build growth as fast as you possibly can. Now, Y Combinator, who are probably one of the most famous accelerators in the world, put a metric on this previously. They said that if you get 300% growth in your first year, let's say you're starting from $20,000, $30,000 a month, right? It's not starting from $1,000 a month, but you get 300% growth your first year. So that maybe puts you to $60,000, $80,000 a month. You get 300% growth the second year. That brings you to maybe 160, maybe 200,000 a month if you were up at $870,000 or $80,000 a month previously. If you get 200% the next year, that's going to bring you to $400,000 a month. And if you get 200% the following year, now you're getting close to somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million a month. Now, when you are there, arguably you are very much on your way to becoming a unicorn. Like some of the great unicorns out there have got $5, $6, $7 million a month that they're bringing in revenue. So if you can get to $1-2 million a month within a 4-year period, you're pretty much there. Now, how do you get there? And that's where we come in. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of the venture capital community right now. As you all know, we're in a time where it is much harder to raise money, but there is much more money on the sidelines because all those extra unicorns have created all these wealth timings, and these wealth timings have provided all of this extra money. And this extra money has meant that this money is now out in the world for everybody to be able to see and retrieve. But when the economy goes bad, everybody wants to be able to see that you are doing something incredible to make a difference. You have to stand out. So if the field previously was 10,000 people all racing towards that seed and then racing towards the Series A, now the field is going to get thinned down. It's going to be 1,000 or 2,000 people, but it's going to be an awful lot less. So for you to stand out, for you to be one of the ones that break through rather than something else, you got to do something different. Now, our perspective on accelerators, they've been around for a long time. The most famous ones are Techstars, Y Combinator, 500 startups, and one of my favorites, Plug and Play. I think do a phenomenal job out of the valley. These movements, we'll call them, came in about 10, 15 years ago. And the idea was that venture capital money was really an old boys club. And that meant that they just gave out the large amounts of money to the people they liked. So the really good founders find it difficult to break through. So these accelerators came in and said, we will give you a small amount of money, normally like 50, 100, $150,000. And then you will take that money and we will introduce you to mentors and we'll introduce you to investors and we're going to help you break through in a way that you would never be able to break through yourself. Now, there were companies like Airbnb who had struggled for 4 or 5 years before they met Y Combinator. And they got a tiny investment. I believe it was only $20,000, gave up a decent chunk of equity to do that. And now we see Airbnb today, one of the largest companies in the world. Was it because of Y Combinator? I'm not sure it was 100%, but I would say in large portion it was the fact that those founders suddenly got access. Think of it the same as music. Why don't musicians break through? Even though there's wonderful musicians in every local bar everywhere, it's because they don't get seen, they don't get trained, and their voice doesn't get perfected, and they don't get surrounded by the management team that can help take them up to the next level. That's what an accelerator is supposed to do. Now, they've been around for a long time, and many, many, many more accelerators have sprung up around the world, like really good ones like Wise Guys over in Europe, and more ones down in Latin America, and Australia, and Asia, and Africa, and everywhere else. But then let me take Expert Dojo into the picture for you, which is my company. And I founded this company around 7, 8 years ago. And I didn't found it to be a accelerator. But I did found it because I saw a fundamental problem in what was happening. And I saw that what the current accelerators were doing was not only not solving the problem that's out there, which is that a very small proportion of founders are getting all of the money, but in many ways it exacerbated it. Like there are many accelerators like Y Combinator that will specifically look for people who went to schools because their knowledge is that those people have a higher probability of breaking through because they have more connections. And that's great for Y Combinator because they're right. It is a higher probability, but it's bad for entrepreneurship. It's bad for America. It's bad for the world because it means the greatest entrepreneurs do not break through. And I saw this, and many of my friends saw this. And we were down in Santa Monica, which is arguably the center of creation in the world. It's where Hollywood is. It's where all of the great storytelling is. And from our perspective, we believe that that's where entrepreneurship should start. And we took over a location there, and we just really wanted to understand why entrepreneurs were failing. Like, what was it that we could do that could maybe impact the very high failure rate, which we all know is in the region of 98, 99% of every single entrepreneur who starts. And as we brought these entrepreneurs in, and we didn't take equity, we didn't give money, we didn't do anything really except engage with them. But as we brought these entrepreneurs in, we noticed a few things. Number one, we noticed that their storytelling was dead. Everybody was following Lean Startup. Huge mistake. Lean Startup doesn't speak to storytelling. It doesn't speak to brand. It doesn't speak to human-centric experience. It speaks to getting products to the market quickly, which is never a great idea when you want to differentiate yourself from the other products. What we also saw was that their marketing was mediocre at best. And what we love is the marketing of the internet greats, the landing pages, the click funnels, the A/B testing, the multiple messaging, the email sequences, real content-driven marketing that can turn the world on fire. And we saw that that wasn't happening. We also saw that everybody was just looking at investors and saying, can we get investment? Can we get investment? Can we get investment? We want to get whatever we can and make sure that we get out. But that's wrong. If you're begging for money on the very first minute, then what chance do you have of actually being successful in building a great company? And then finally, we saw very few companies had any real structure in it. So we decided that we were going to create a growth hacking academy. And that academy was going to turn into an agency. And the idea was that we would go to early stage founders and say, guys, you need to have great growth hacking built into your organization as your DNA right from the very beginning, and you don't have that now. So let us help you. Let us help you put that in. And then as we went through and we brought in company after company after company, we had a few companies say to us, hey guys, it would be great if you could take a little bit of equity in our company rather than charge. And maybe we could actually then get help from you without having to pay money. And so we created a venture studio. And that venture studio, we took in about 10, 15, 20 companies, and we started working with them really carefully. And we had a few percentage points, not very many. And then it was all tied into how could we help them, but not in the traditional way of an accelerator, which was just introducing them to investors, which is a commodity, and introducing them to mentors, which is another commodity. Our reason for being was to help them grow, nothing else. And as our fame grew, as more and more founders started to come to us, they started to say, come on, guys, it would be great if you could invest in our companies. Then you would show us that you have true skin in the game. So I got together with my partner and brought in multiple other partners into Expert Dojo, and we did exactly that. We started investing. And that was about 3.5 years ago. And in that time period, we invested 30, 40 companies in the first year, 50, 60 in the second year. And then last year and the beginning of this year, we brought ourselves up to almost 200 companies. Who knows, maybe even over 200 companies right now. And every single one of our companies comes to us for one reason. That is growth. It is because they recognize that the only thing between them and absolute guaranteed death is the ability to scale successfully. And scaling successfully, it really is a formula. Like I mentioned earlier on about the 300%, 300%, 200, 200, but I could make it even simpler. If we say that a great unicorn is doing like $5 million a month, and if we say that the four components of that are cost of customer acquisition, LTV, lifetime value, amount of time it takes to close folks, and what you can shove into the funnel, right? They're the only four things that matter. So in that case, then everything is around how do you reduce the cost of acquisition, increase the amount of time that folks are spending money on your product, and et cetera, in those four areas. We believe that brand, stroke storytelling, stroke product fit, stroke scalable product fit, stroke experiential scalable product fit are all one huge component that's required. We also believe personal brand, as demonstrated by Elon Musk or Gary Vaynerchuk or Mark Cuban or Richard Branson. These people created such a strong personal brand that they would be able to be the second or third biggest company at anything in the world if they just went out and launched a new company, because their brand demonstrates trust. Third area, vision. That vision has to be vicious. It has to help you create a cult community, not even a great community, a cult. I mean, people who will follow you over the edge of a cliff, but the vision has to have something special. Our vision is to be able to take everyday founders with exceptional talents, but without the necessary connections, and help those companies, those people, outplay other companies that have been given a ton more money and believe that they're going to win the race. That's our mission. It is to return the world of entrepreneurship to the great entrepreneurs, not to the venture capitalists that currently own that world and manipulate where the money goes to on multiple different levels. And then, so if we then take what we just said there, which is like those areas there, and we then bring some milestones around that, and we start creating a mindset within entrepreneurs that every single day is a new milestone that needs to be created, whether it's activities, whether it's channels within the activities, whether it's meetings, whether it's prospects, whether it's suspects, or whether it's sales, or whether it's revenue, all of these things. Not quarterly, not 6 monthly, not yearly, not even monthly, daily activity targets where you measure against it and you punish stroke reward yourself depending on how well you do. Then we go outside that circle and we start looking at experiential. We start looking at email sequences. We start looking at A/B testing. We start looking at ideal customer profiles. That is a beautiful world. We start looking at the type of messaging that goes out within your community. We start looking to the team and how the team can engage on a viral basis with folks outside. Then we start looking at customer behavioral psychology, a fascinating area. We are all complicated, right? We're not just going to fall in as sheep to everything that comes out, but we can do if you use the right profiling behavioral psychology when selling to me and other people like me. And then you go further out and say, okay, we've got our cult, we've done all of the A/B testing, we've done everything we can to bring it down. Now let's look at what we're talking about within the actual channels themselves. Now look, this is 15 minutes. So I want to give you all a feel, not just about an accelerator, which I believe is very important for everybody in today's world, but an Expert Dojo experiential accelerator, which is like nothing else in the world because it is focused entirely on that growth, and that growth to take you through from pre-seed seed to beyond your Series A. Once you get past your Series A, honestly, it's for you to lose. 40% of companies make it through from there on in. We just got to get you past that Series A. So I would say this to you. Whether you are a founder that is starting out, whether you're a founder who's possibly not a founder yet, you're in a company and you're looking at this conference and you're thinking, what can I create that will actually make what I have special to the world? And how can I scale that to a great level? Or whether you're somebody who's been doing this for a while. First of all, you're on the right path. Early stage entrepreneurship is the most beautiful thing in the world. You are in a time of creation. So create. Don't live somebody else's dream. Don't allow them to do it. Go out there and make the dream happen yourself. But number two, and this is where I conclude, irrespective of the channels, whether it's affiliates or partnerships or email marketing or SEO or paid marketing or social marketing or referrals or any of these things, irrespective of whether you're focusing on the ICPs or the vision or the brand or the personal brand and all of those areas as well, or whether you're trying to build a cult of people that will follow you like a Tom's Shoes or a Patagonia. You gotta make growth the central core focus of every single thing you do every single day. When you are a founder and you step out there and you got your business cards and your t-shirts, like I got my t-shirt, you got your t-shirts, you got your business cards. From that moment, you are a salesperson. And if you can convert yourself into a great salesperson or bring in a great salesperson, you have a fantastic chance of winning. So get out there. Start off a company or grow a company, get your focus on sales, build something that other people will look and want to be a part of. And you will find that no matter how much money you think was not out there yesterday, there's plenty of it out there today. That's it from me. Anybody wanting to contact me, it's brian@expertdojo.com. I'm always very happy to give advice or loop in folks from our team who are happy to do so as well. And I think this would probably be a good time to bring the host back. Are you going to leave me here forever?
The host back.
Hey,
we
now.
Are you going to leave me here host back forever?
Okay. Mr. Brian, we have a few questions for you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Please ask the question.
Okay, so first question is, what do you seek startups before you onboard them? So I look at and thank you. I like this format of questions, nice and simple. So when I'm looking at a startup, look, we probably view 1,000 startups every month, and we're not a service provider. Like, you couldn't pay me money to do anything. We don't do that. We just invest. That's all. And if we invest in at the beginning and we invest in at a valuation of X, whether it's a couple of million or a million or whatever it is, and then it goes to be a billion, we make a 100 to 1,000 times. Like, that's what we're doing. So what am I looking for the startup? I'm trying to really tie a line between where they are right now and $5 million a month in revenue. Okay. So normally speaking, startups coming to us, they will have a product in the market. It doesn't have to be far in the market, but because we're a growth accelerator, it does need to be in the market somewhere so we can do it. And I would say probably 3-4% of our companies haven't come to market. Actually, one of the most successful companies we ever brought in, which was Clasha over in Africa, an unbelievable company with a phenomenal founder, and we took prior to market. But generally speaking, we're going to look at taking the companies in as they've come into market. They might be doing like 10,000, 20,000, 30, $40,000 a month. We're going to look at all those metrics that I just said there, and I'm going to make a logic-based formula about whether the company can grow if we can improve some of the areas that I talk about. It's all math for me. And yes, I want the entrepreneur to have a vision, of course. And yes, I want it to be a big market. Like, I want it to be an Uber market versus somebody who's like selling something in the local park. Like, it has to be able to scale to a level that it can become, somewhere between $100 million in value and $5 to $10 billion in value. Like, it could be more than that, but it can't be less than the $100 million. So if you think about it as a founder, if you're looking for institutional investment, which I am, then you're looking for investment from a firm that require you to be able to grow up to that $5 million a month. And you want to be able to show us, look, it doesn't need to be straight line all the way, but certainly at the beginning, it needs to be straight line. And then after you get to like 50, 100, 200,000 a month, then we at least need to see a high level of probability that you can break through. Everything is numbers for me, and everything is growth for me. Okay, and next question. Okay, good. Number one reason startup fail. Look, time. This is what most people don't realize, especially venture backable startups. You're in a war against time right from the very first day. And if we lived to be, 100,000 years old, every single startup in the world would succeed. Like, literally every single one. Because you just keep going, right? And if we had as much money as we wanted to keep going on the startups, they would all make it. But what happens is this. There are really three distinct periods in a startup from the expert dojo perspective. Like, the first one is what we call the Viking period. And the Viking period is right at the very beginning. And there's really three, maybe four things that are important. There is outreach. Number one, it is the first thing you should be doing on the very first day. It is branding, and then it is communication. So if you think about Vikings and how they used to go out, they would get on their ships. They didn't paint their ships. They didn't make them nice. They just got their asses in the water. They sharpened up their blades, and they made sure that everybody and every village that they were coming into knew that the Vikings, the most vicious humans on the planet, were coming for them. So most of the time, they didn't even need a fight. People would run away and leave everything behind for them to take. And then you have to have that communication, and you have to have that brand to get there. So we like implanting that into our startups' minds so that they know that they can actually do that. The next period then is another reason why you can fail, which is what we call the gladiator period. Because if you just keep going like a Viking all the time, a time's going to come, somebody's going to drop a big old rock into the water, and all your people are going to drown. So the gladiator is someone that has structure, procedure, process, training over and over and over again, looking at every single thing that could possibly stop them from being successful in what they have, and then making sure that when they are absolutely perfect at it, they train more and more and more. And then the next period then is what we call the Knights of the Round Table, and that is when the startups, very much like King Arthur, every single knight around that table is better than you at an individual attribute that you need them to do. So you are no longer required. You become the sensei. That is the joy of building a company. Now, here's the answer to the question. If you spend 36 to 48 months in the first period, the Viking period, you're dead. It's too long, right? If you can do 18 months, you're okay. If you do less than 18 months, you're ahead of the game. And what that means is you've nailed the brand, nailed the communication, and you've nailed the marketing. Your sales are going like this. If you go into the second period and you can do the same thing, you build those processes. Now, remember, these skills are different in the gladiator period than they were in the Viking period. So you need different people around you, or you need to be severely multi-talented, which I and many other people are not, right? But again, you need to get through that as quickly as you can. And then, only then, and in that second period, by the way, you're building influence, you're getting investment, you're building processes, you're building structure into it. So you have all of this in place. And then when you get to that last period, now you can afford to hire incredible people that can bring it forward for you. You just got to get through the periods fast. You got to wake up in the morning. You got to know that if in that first period of trying to build up your company, trying to get that traction going, if it takes too long, then your wives and husbands are going to start having a really major problem with you. Your kids are going to start wondering when they're going to start seeing you. You're going to start getting tired because 17, 18-hour days get really tiring after a little while, and things are going to get really tough. Same with the second, same with the third period. So you start your company in the full knowledge that you have the most vicious war with multiple battles every single day. The war is not with your competitors. It's not with your product. It's not with the people that actually are not buying your product. It is only with time. So you milestone it out and you measure out how you're impacting against time every single time. Okay. Next question, please, if you have it there. You got to be tough as nails. You know, ironically, maybe it's not ironically, I don't know, but when I have a male entrepreneur or a female entrepreneur and they all have the same attributes, same talent, same product, same everything, I will normally go for the female entrepreneur because they generally have more grit. And I know I'm generalizing an awful lot here, but this is so hard. It's so difficult. I've done this on both sides in many ways, even as a venture capitalist. Like, we came out as a startup. The things you have to do require an ability that most people don't have. And, you know, and a lot of folks will look at wealthy people or people who've had unicorns or people who've exited and say, you're lucky, you did well. But man, they went through stuff that you can't even imagine. And I've known people where they've got mortgage payments being made, they've got their cars being repossessed, they've been sleeping in their car before the thing has been repossessed, and then 4 weeks later they got $3 million in their bank account. And then a year later they're in the same place as well. It is the greatest roller coaster challenging ride. And this is why I encourage all of our startups to get into the war mode in the very beginning, take on time, build milestones, get their mindset in a place that they actually can work it through. In some ways, even have a contract with their spouse, partner, parents, whatever else that says if they don't hit the milestones, then that person has the ability to close down the company. It's just very, very, very difficult. The other skills we can teach, look, growth, come on, who can't learn that? And sales, I don't believe you if you say I'm a creative, I'm in operations, I don't like sales. Everybody can do what they need to do to be able to break through. But that grit, that mindset, that ability to be able to adapt as every single punch in the face comes at you. As always, my favorite quote by Mike Tyson: everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? And that's what startup is. Every single day, somebody's going to punch you in the face. And the more important you get, the better you do, the bigger and tougher people are going to punch you in the face. So yeah, that's it. Only the best survive. Great. Next question, if you have one. What do Expert Dojo take in supporting founders? We have we have kind of a standard accelerator model. So the standard accelerator model is that a founder will go to an accelerator. Normally they will give 6, 7, 8%. Sometimes it's more, very seldom though. Like if anybody is asking for more, that's not good. And normally they'll get somewhere between $75,000, $100,000, $125,000. That's the standard in most accelerators around the world. And what happened in our case was really interesting. We were saying 7% for $100,000. But because we became so good at growth and we attracted so many people who are so good at growth, we just had founders coming in that were way more advanced than accelerator stage. Like we had founders coming in that were already doing $1 million a month in revenue. And those founders are saying, look, we want the growth. And we don't mind paying something, but we're not going to pay you 7% for $100,000 because they were so advanced. So we came up with a model where we said, look, you can take less than the 100,000. You can actually bring it all the way down to even 10, 20, $25,000 if you want to. And then what we'll then do is we'll take a warrant based on the fact we're going to work together for a 3-year period to build your business as fast as it can for an ability to be able to invest in an evaluation of $10 million. So most startups, when they come to us, are valued somewhere between $10 million and $5 million. So we're happy to have a future warrant over the price where the founders are right now. And actually, when they look back at the cost of their accelerator and they're like, hey, these guys put like $1 million in by the end, 100,000 in, or 50 or 25 at the start, and then a further million in afterwards. And they gave us all this help and drove our valuation through the roof. And actually, it was 4 times cheaper than a standard accelerator program. They're pretty happy. And I can probably take 2 more questions if you have them. Great. There seems to be a bit of a lag with the questions coming in. Look, if I see another question, I'll do very happily do one more question, and then you all have my email address, which is, as I said, brian@expertdojo.com. I'm very happy to get that out to you. Let me finish up with this. Early stage startup is brutal, and you are in competition with millions of people, not hundreds of thousands of people. But it is a glorious place to be if you can break through. And there is literally $5 trillion sitting on the sidelines right now. That's family offices, venture capitalists, everybody, all just waiting to invest the money into companies that are scaling. So find something which is tremendously important for the world that you can get out there. Make sure that from your perspective that you are prepared to execute what needs to be done, and then give yourself a very time limited milestone where you're very tough on yourself, that if you're not achieving what you needed to achieve within that 18 months, that you consider your options very carefully. And because you know that's going to be coming every single day before then, you'll put in 5 times more effort. So look, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope the conference is going great for everybody. I'm very happy to share what we do in Expert Dojo. If any of you are looking for investment, I don't mind where you are. We invest in Africa, probably our most successful place right now. We invest in Southeast Asia. We invest in Latin America. We invest in the MENA region. We invest in the United Kingdom, Europe, and the United States and Canada, everywhere. Actually, there's nowhere we don't invest. And we're going to be investing in another 100 or so companies over the next year or so. So again, anybody can reach out. If anybody is a growth expert, we love you guys. You should be reaching out to me for sure. And otherwise, everybody, enjoy the rest of the conference. you.